Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and today we're going to take a look at some crazy things that are going in the shop, and I actually have a special guest today because I want to know, is it just me? Am I going insane?
Yes, you
are. No, it's not me. Let's get started. So if you watch any of the famous Wichita YouTubers, there's Hobbyist Garage, there's Ellie Alvis, Car Wizard, and 100PercentJake. We have 100PercentJake with us today.
Hey, I fixed your car. It runs now.
It runs now?
Yeah, it makes more power somehow. I did the thing with the stuff.
The thing with the stuff?
It's all good. Yeah.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
If you're into actually wrenching, a lot more wrenching than I do on the channel, you can actually head on over to his channel. He actually takes things apart and shows you stuff, takes stuff apart. Some of the projects he has going on, the troubles he's going through. It's a very interesting channel.
Mostly troubles.
Mostly troubles. There'll be a link in the description below to make sure to check out 100PercentJake. You don't want to miss out. Really good content. But I wanted to take you around the shop today, Jake. There's some troubles lately that I've been having. I've actually been getting a lot of cars from out of state. It's because people are tired of the hoopla in their local shops. And is it really getting that bad?
Local shops have always been an interesting thing to me because I do all my own work. I'm a hobbyist mechanic. I do a lot of my work at home. And when people ask me what shop do they recommend, other than you or for imports, Johnny the Car Ninja, I don't really know, and I'm scared to suggest anything because in my experience with owning a bunch of used cars, I've seen the kind of stuff that unscrupulous mechanics will do to a vehicle. One that I have right now, I've been, for the last 3 days, undoing sins done by a mechanic shop, using RTV where they shouldn't, not using hose clamps, just not following the best practices to give the customer the best experience. And a car's an expensive thing.
Yeah.
For a lot of people these days, it's one of the most expensive objects they own. And being without it can cost you your livelihood. And to me, that means that one of the best financial decisions that a person can make in this day and age as a car owner is to find a good mechanic. And if you're not a high roller enough to ship your car here to Kansas for the Car Wizard to lay his magical hands upon it, to me, I think the best bet is honestly to become friends with someone in your local car enthusiast groups and see who it is they suggest.
All right, that's a good plan. I'm actually going to walk you through some of the cars we're working on in the shop, and one at a time I'll explain to you some of the issues I've been dealing with. It's crazy. Maybe you've experienced some of it yourself, just buying parts or trying to get information on how to fix things. And the next thing we'll move to is Hobbyist 355.
I'm excited. I haven't been up here in a while.
Jake, where'd you go?
Hello.
Oh. Yeah,
There's a car here.
Pretty good hidey hole, isn't it?
It is. It's very empty.
There's nothing in there but just exhaust and a few wires now.
Turns out when you remove the engine, you remove the whole back half of the car. Now, how difficult was it to get to this point?
Actually, my tech Daniel, we call him Danielson, you guys know Danielson, he was a certified Ferrari tech in Tampa Bay, Florida. He had this out by lunch.
Impressive.
Yeah, he's very good.
I do notice that with some of the exotic cars. It is a horrifying amount of disassembly, but it's designed to be disassembled. The Audi service position is an infamous example. Take the nose off the car. Sounds horrifying. Takes 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's actually not as bad as you think it would be. But one issue I've run into with this is I have a whole list of parts, like 3 pages long to do the major service. And I get the order placed, I put the money down, and only half the parts show up. And my tech's trying to get some work done, and I call people, where's these parts? Oh, well, those are on back order. Well, these won't be, they'll be delayed or this or that. But these are parts that were listed supposedly in stock.
That definitely has been an issue in the hobbyist market as well. I've been trying to get some parts for some rarer old motorcycle things, and finding suppliers who actually have them is impossible. Some of my newer stuff, the parts have recently gone out of production, so trying to find places that actually have stock is virtually impossible. I'm actually having to work with an outfit in England to get some rings custom made for pistons because Honda stopped making them back in 2014, I think.
Yeah.
And even then, that's an international affair, getting it shipped here. With the way that things are today, that project is not happening anytime soon.
I'm seeing that a lot of 90s, 80s and 90s cars especially, where you think, oh, that stuff, they have that at your local parts store. Not anymore.
It does seem like the age of a car that you can easily find parts for is rapidly shrinking.
Right.
It used to be anything made within 20 years. You could go down to your local parts store and they'd have it there on the shelf. Now, stuff beyond 15 years is hardly even being manufactured anymore, much less available in your parts store. I ran into that issue with an old Lexus I had, where control arms were made of gold, essentially.
Yeah. So that's where we're at on this one. We actually got most of all the parts. Finally now, it's taken us 3 weeks. And now Daniel's going at it and getting everything together. And hopefully, by the end of this week, we'll start going back in with this engine. But so much of the time this car's in the shop was just waiting on parts, not the actual work.
And that's expensive for you, because it means you've got this go-kart sitting here taking up one of your lifts.
Basically so.
And there's no wheels to move it.
No, we can't move it off the lift. It would be structurally dangerous to do that. So let's move over to the Range Rover.
I'll just uninstall myself.
So here's another crazy scenario that I run into, Jake, is the valve cover gaskets were leaking on this 2012 Range Rover, which has basically the 5-liter Coyote engine. But you quote them the price, and they're like, that's a 30-minute job. Why is it so expensive? This is not 30 minutes.
That was a 30-minute job 30 years ago.
Yes, 30 years ago, that's right. All the direct injectors have to be pulled, which are right here, using a special puller. It actually connects to the tip, and you take the injectors out because they sit right on the valve cover right there. You can't get the valve cover off. I suppose you could risk trying to twist them out of the way, but it'll inadvertently snap it. It's just plastic. Look at it. The whole housing is just cheap, chintzy plastic.
Yeah, direct injection is something I've not yet been lucky enough to experience. As a nerd, it's the coolest thing ever. The ability to precisely control the fueling is awesome. As someone who likes to work on cars, this is horrifying.
Yeah, the execution is not as cool.
I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Bit of carbon on there.
So it's just kind of a thing that I run into actually on a weekly basis, where people don't understand that you don't just tear a modern car apart in 30 minutes like you used to. There's so much things that are just waiting to bite you. Plastic injectors, plastic coils. These little hoses, you know, that always like to break.
Ah, yes. Especially as these cars mile out and plastic and rubber parts heat soak and heat cycle. Oh, wow, this is not substantial. BMW has a lot of hoses like these with this press to remove quick disconnect. They're only rated for 80,000 miles, I believe, typically.
Yep, so you get to take those off and try to do it gingerly. You don't go... These are definitely one of those scenarios where you don't get your power tools in there and just start zipping away. You will break everything that you just touched.
Delicate touch required for sure.
So that is definitely an issue that I've dealt with. Let's take a look at this F-Type S Jag over here. So you guys have seen the 2014 Jag F-Type S. You've seen a video of it. This one's actually from Louisiana, Jake. The guy had a good used engine put in. I don't know if it was good used or new. I'm not sure about that yet. But he had a direct injection meltdown. It just ruined the motor. So he had a shop put another motor in, and he was so dissatisfied. He just pulled the work out. It was running and driving, but there's all kinds of check engine lights. There's rattles. There's things loose. And finally, he reached a breaking point. I'll ship it to Omega. And in the video, which have all been fixed now, the heat shields weren't even connected. There were bell housing bolts. There were literally 2 threads in, and they just stopped. They didn't even tighten it down. There was hoses disconnected. There was hose clamps missing, kind of like what's on your PT Cruiser. Mm-hmm. And this was a certified Jag shop.
This sounds very similar to the one time I actually took one of my cars to a mechanic. It was my LS400, needed some new bushings pressed into the lower control arms, I believe. I didn't have a shop at the time, so I asked around, took it to a shop that some friends recommended, and they did the work, but I looked underneath the car later and found my splash shields were all zip tied up, or half the fasteners were missing, and the job was just left technically done, but incomplete. It reeks of someone doing a quarter of a job, saying good enough for government work, and sending it out the door.
Yeah, that's not very good. That's kind of what happened here. And also I wanted to show you another thing. Why this wasn't caught while putting a new engine in. He complained of a belt squeal, and the tensioner stop is broken, and you can see where the belt was rubbing.
Oh my gosh.
It actually rubbed, see if you can show it on here, chunks out of it.
Oh.
And rub your finger on that.
Wow, that is a substantial...
You can actually feel the ridges. Listen.
What kind of rubber is that belt made out of? This thing is substantial.
Well, they do have grit in the rubber for better grip.
It's a thick belt. Wow.
But this was his belt noise. And why was this not caught? I mean, when they first started this engine up, they would have heard this squealing. They're like, just like you said, good enough.
Yeah.
Quarter the job. Let's get it out of here. It's really, really sad. There's actually a Mercedes we'll take a quick look at here in a little bit. It's all the way from Vermont. He's had similar issues. He's just had enough. But there's a really cool story. I wanted to get your take on it. A guy actually just had it in here for an oil change. It's a 2020 Dodge Charger. I believe it's an RT. 9,000 miles on it. He brought it in for an oil change and check over. We found his rear shocks are bad. Even with 9,000 miles on them, they're clunking. And we're like, you could get this fixed for free at the dealership. You're still under warranty. And he said, hell no. He said, I'm willing to forfeit my warranty. I don't want those, he called them shop monkeys, touching my car. He said, no way in hell. He said, I'll take it here. Even I'm willing to pay. I know it's going to cost me. I could get it fixed for free. He says, I don't want to. Isn't that crazy?
I don't blame him, given what I've seen from some dealerships around here.
That's kind of a first for me. I've never seen someone forfeit their factory warranty with only 9,000 miles in their car, because they know if they let the dealer mechanics touch it, it'll actually end up worse than what they started with.
Yeah, you could go from blown shocks to shocks that aren't bolted on all the way.
And cause an accident.
Yeah.
Or that was really shocking to me this morning. I normally would think, hey, that's great. I feel like that's really cool that they think that we're that honest here. But yet at the same time, it's like, is that what it's coming to, guys? That you forfeit your warranty and have your trustworthy local shop fix your car because you want it done right.
Yeah, even though the dealership could be held accountable, that's still time that you're without your car that you're presumably making payments on.
Yeah, it's really nuts. So this one is not the same S-Type that you saw. It was 2001. This is a 2003 S-Type, but the customer has an 01 and an 03 that are both gold. The 01 is a 3-liter V6. This one has the 4.2 V8. This one's actually done. It needed coils and plugs, a fuel filter, and just some simple maintenance. And it's actually done, waiting to be picked up. But you guys saw, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but a video I did on the 01, it went to also a certified Jag shop. They left a ball joint loose. He had 3 alignments by another shop. All 3 times the steering was out of whack after about a mile. And it's because literally there was like this much play in the ball joint. It was just the nut was on, it wasn't even tightened down.
That could definitely cause an accident.
Definitely. After that issue, he was like, I've heard about this guy Omega, I'm taking it there and get it taken care of. And we did get it taken care of. He's happy. This one's done. He's ready to pick it up. I think in a couple of days he'll be here to pick it up. And he has a 3rd vehicle he's going to bring us.
Where are these from?
So this one's not from far away, but the fact that he just wanted it done right, he brought it here. There's a 3rd vehicle, like I said, he's bringing to fix after this one. And that's just kind of, I would rather have a long-term customer that keeps returning. I think I can make more money that way than just giving him some crap work.
Oh, yes. Honest work.
And charge him triple for it.
Yeah, honest work builds good relationships, and also you get the word of mouth as well. It's free advertising.
Yep. So that's kind of the story on this one. Let's move over to the SC430. So this is a 2003 SC430. Have you seen many of these?
I've seen a couple. I actually was not a huge fan of these until I sat in one. It's a pretty special car that doesn't get talked about very much these days.
Yeah, I actually think they're kind of a neat car. It's not very big, it's not very heavy, but yet it has a Toyota V8 under the hood.
It's an experience you don't get from many other cars. Sort of a hardtop convertible rear drive Grand Tourer. I guess there's the IS250C, but this is far more exciting.
Yeah. This one's from Oklahoma. I don't know that they had any trouble with any other shops or anything, but they had it shipped here because they know they want it done right the first time. And I actually had Crazy D in the office had a friend visiting him one day, and he saw some of the lists that customers have on the desk. And the friend was like, are these people jerks? They're just like all these lists and lists. And he's like, no, they're not jerks. It's just, that's how we do business here. People come here for their one shot. They get the car in the shop. They want everything done that they can get done in that one whack and get before it comes back. That's the norm here, is that we have a list of things to go over. So, I don't know, that's kind of how we operate here. But this one's got a timing belt, water pump. It's getting this is a dealer seal here. We're replacing it. It was leaking air on the convertible top. And rear brakes and an auction sensor. Really not that much. They wanted to be, especially with the timing belt situation, they wanted it done right.
Yes. Lots has to come off. Lots of opportunities for someone who doesn't have a good sense of detail and to misplace something.
Yeah. They start the engine and the belt goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. Let's actually go take a look at a motorcycle, Jake.
I like those.
All right. You guys haven't even seen this in the Car Wizard world. I've actually had this for a while. A dealer friend of Tyler Hoover from Hoovy's Garage was liquidating his inventory. He's going to retire. He had this as a trade-in. He was like, I got to get rid of this thing, like $4,000. If you'll take it, I'll deliver it to you.
$4,000?
$4,000. It's an 09.
Gosh.
It's an 09 Moto Guzzi Norge 1200, and it has 13,000 miles on it.
Wow. That's almost new for one of these.
So this actually has a V2 like you would think of a V engine. It's not sideways like a Harley, it's actually longitudinal.
Longitudinal. My first motorcycle was a 1980 Honda CX500, which is half the size of this, but the same configuration. Water-cooled. I believe this is air-cooled, isn't it?
This is air-cooled.
Yeah.
But this has similar sounds. You have a Ducati 900 SS I sold you.
Yep, still have it.
And it has the dry clutch noise.
Yep.
It's infamous Ducati noise. This one actually has that too. I'll start it up. I'll pull the clutch, you guys can hear it. Sounds like a Ducati.
Yeah, it's a good noise.
It's actually got a GPR muffler on it. It sounds pretty good.
I love when these sport touring bikes sound super aggressive like that. It's pretty unexpected.
Yeah, it's got a really wonderful sound to it. It's not exactly like a Harley V-twin sound. It almost sounds like a small block Chevy, but just with 2 cylinders.
That's what I always thought, yeah. And then they rev way higher than any Harley.
Yeah.
At low RPMs, that CX I had could be mistaken for a Sportster, but then it would rev out to 10,000 RPM.
Yeah, this one revs, I think it redlines an 8. But still pretty high. If Harley goes to 4 or 5 and it's running out of steam.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it last fall. I rode this around and it's comfortable. I like the riding position of this better than a cruiser.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards something like this as my ultimate bike to actually ride places. Though I don't ride much anymore, I'd love to do a trip out to the West Coast on a bike, and something like this is probably what I'll look for.
This one has heated grips and also has, forgot to show you, the power windshield, which really doesn't do a whole lot. But,
Yes.
but the airflow will change as
Yeah.
you're cruising. It makes a big difference. It doesn't look like it does much.
It's cool though.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has a 2000 BMW R1150 RT. Rolls off the tongue. He just hit 100,000 miles on that motorcycle.
Wow.
He didn't put them on there. He bought it fairly close to that. But all it needed was plugs and wires, and it's been perfectly reliable.
That's sweet. Hopefully this one will go that long, if I keep it that long.
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
Oh, yeah.
We got a couple more to go through before the video is over, so let's go take a look at those.
Let's do it.
So this is a 2005 Mercedes E320 CDI. This is actually a diesel, Jake.
I have not seen a modern Mercedes diesel. The last Mercedes diesel I saw was Elliot Alvis's, which is a significantly different ball game. And these diesels weren't terribly popular in the US, were they?
No, they weren't. I think the 80s diesels ruined most Americans' taste for diesels. But this one was purchased in California. It was going to be on its way to Vermont, where the customer lives. They made it to Wyoming, and they hit a snowstorm, and it was so bad he had to fly home. And he had this shipped to the shop. He was like, why not? There's a few other issues that he's tried to have fixed, and that he hasn't had any success at other shops. And finally, it's here. We've been so busy. You guys have seen all the cars that have come in. We're finally going to start taking a look at this one, get some prices together, and see where we go. But as soon as it's done, it's going all the way to Vermont.
So it's effectively here for a post-purchase inspection and tune-up.
Right.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, it actually runs and drives fine, and it just needs a good, thorough check over, make sure it's all good to go. He does say that he thinks there's an antifreeze leak and a fuel leak going on under the hood, so...
It is a clean-looking car.
It is. It's really nice. Tyler from Hoovy's Garage was actually here the other day, and he believes these are the last of the cool Mercedes diesels, the CDI, before they went to the Blue Tech with all the DEF fluid. And
Yes. Yeah, this era of diesel is, especially in the truck world, is huge right now. People are paying new diesel truck prices for diesel trucks from this era because they predate the emissions equipment that harms their reliability. And these days, with the parts supply issues that we mentioned, if the emission system goes bad on your 2020 medium-duty diesel truck and it goes into limp mode, there's a good chance you won't be getting that truck back for a few months.
or a year.
Or more, yeah.
And you're going to have a cab off repair.
Yeah.
It can if it's major turbo work or something. The F-Type S we just looked at, the cats are bad from the engine meltdown, which weren't addressed when it was originally worked on. I called today to the dealership. I'm ready to purchase new cats. I got cash in hand, ready to buy. And they said there will be none till October. There's none to be had at any price.
And that was a problem with cars from that era when the emission standards changed and pre-cats became common. The 3-liter Mazdas and a lot of other cars, the Toyota MRSs, the pre-cats were very common failure points, and the catalyst couldn't handle the heat cycles, would break apart and get sucked back in through the exhaust port and destroy your engine. I personally owned a Mazda 6 that had a replacement engine from that very problem.
Yep. So we'll get this one taken care of. We'll get the price together and call the customer. It shouldn't be too extensive, I don't think. There's one more I want to show you, and that is the R8.
I'm excited for that one.
All right. This is actually Tyler Hoover's from Hoovy's Garage Audi R8 that he's wanting to get fixed up for his wife, Ann. I'm not going to go into detail or show any info on it, what we found or what's going on. You'll have to watch Hoovy's Garage if you want to find that out. That's not going to be found out on Car Wizard. But one issue I wanted to bring up to you, Jake, is another issue I've come across on multiple different makes and models. Is I ordered a crank sensor for this car from the dealership. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to get sued. And 2 weeks went by, and Hoovy actually mentioned, he's like, where's the sensor on that? I was like, that's a good question. So I had Crazy D call them. And their response was, oh crap, we'll mail that out today. So the shipping process hadn't even started for 2 weeks.
That's not even necessarily a supply chain issue. That's just not caring about the customer.
It just doesn't care. And I mean, luckily, obviously, Hoovy's very understanding and he's patient, but it's very hard right now running a shop because this type of scenario keeps happening. It's dealerships, parts houses, all the different places. Yeah, we'll get your part in the mail, and so you trust that it's going to be gotten in the mail, and it's not. In your world of doing hobbyist mechanics at home and on your channel, have you ran into that trouble where you order a part and it's like, where's my part at? Oh, we forgot to get it in the mail.
I've had a few shipping delays, but typically I'm ordering from Rock Auto or FCP Euro, and they're generally all right about getting stuff out fairly quickly.
Right.
A few times I'll have to get something real esoteric that I can only get used on eBay, and then I'm at the mercy of whoever's shipping it out. And I have had a few instances where it'll take a few weeks before they get around to putting it in a box and trotting off to USPS to get it headed my way. But with something like this, where parts can only be got from dealerships and from specific people, I can definitely imagine those problems are compounded, though I think the result is worth it. This is definitely one of my dream cars, one of the cars that got me into cars when I saw an advertisement for it in Popular Mechanics with the bead of lights at the front all lit up in silver. It looked like a spaceship on wheels.
I think that in Iron Man, the movie Iron Man, the Marvel Comics, there's an R8 in one of those, I think. It's a silver one.
The first Iron Man, Tony Stark was driving an R8.
Yes.
Later on, an R8 e-tron concept.
Those are really cool. So that's one thing I've told a lot of guys on here is just because you see it online, it says in stock, and you pay extra money. Let's say you pay for the overnight shipping, $100 in shipping. That doesn't mean it's coming tomorrow.
I rarely experience it myself, but I've heard it endless times of people seeing a part in stock, ordering it, and then getting a call back, hey, I'm sorry, it's not actually in stock, or even worse, the part is out of production, we can't get it anymore. That's the problem I had with those piston rings I was talking about earlier. They show in stock in a lot of places, but that's simply because someone has not updated the stock system that all the dealerships feed from.
Yes, so I'm not crazy, Mrs. Wizard.
Okay, if that's what you want to think.
Even my BMW, which is a 2003, not all that old, but my seat heater has broken and the part no longer exists. BMW stopped making them and the aftermarket never picked it up because my particular combination isn't what you'd call common. The cloth black heated seats was not something that a lot of people opted for, so I'm kind of stuck right now. I am intending on calling BMW corporate to see if there's a way they can try and track one down for me, but I'm more or less at the mercy of anyone who happens to have a good used unit sitting around.
Right. I mean, there's been times where I have a customer where cost isn't an issue. I'm willing to pay more than the part is even worth for shipping, and it doesn't matter. It will be overnight shipping after a week has passed and they finally get it in the mail.
Yes.
So why was the point of overnight shipping?
I was just recently shopping for some Mopar sensors for one of my vehicles, and I was looking at the shipping options because obviously I want to make a video on it. I'd like to get it here quickly, and I looked at the $108 for overnight shipping, and it said estimated date of delivery a week and a half from now.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just a weird world we're living in now. I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that really wasn't a problem, but it definitely is now. Supply issue is a big issue right now. So before we close this out, I have one more question for you, Jake. I actually get a lot of emails. Somebody, I'm in Seattle or I'm in Houston. Can you recommend a good shop? I don't live in that area, so I don't know. So do you have any recommendations at all?
Well, I mentioned earlier of trying to find a local enthusiast group, and these days it seems like a lot of those primarily seem to live on Facebook, though you have to be careful that you find the right group. I would personally prefer the opinion of owners of slightly nicer cars. You'll likely pay slightly elevated prices at their preferred shops, but you do know that you're getting the care that your vehicle will need.
Right.
Spending more money now to avoid future pains later instead of financing your troubles with constant vehicle issues throughout the upcoming years and not being able to potentially get to work, school, or your child's daycare.
Here's another zinger for you. I've actually had someone say, can you recommend a good shop for BMWs? And I was going to recommend Johnny. And I did. I recommended him, and they said, that's more than I want to pay. The prices are too high. Do you want a good shop or not?
It sounds like they own the wrong car.
It sounds crazy to me. What's a good shop, but I don't want to pay anything? Well, then you're not going to find a good shop. It doesn't make any sense.
Champagne on a beer budget.
That's right. That's what that is. I see that a lot. It's crazy. So thanks for following along, guys. I wanted to kind of show Jake some of the crazy things I'm dealing with, get his take on it. From a hobbyist mechanic perspective, still buying parts. I'm buying parts just like he is. kind of clears things up for me. It makes me feel a little better. I don't feel so crazy, so I appreciate that, Jake.
I'm a bit lucky, I suppose, in that my low budget kind of keeps me in the more common vehicles that I can find parts for.
Yeah. So again, if you'd like to check out 100% Jake's channel, the link is in the description below. Really good content. And it's more actual wrenching and some of the struggles he runs into, not so much how does a shop run. It's more of how does a hobbyist get their car fixed? What kind of issues do they run into? So make sure you hit the link below. If you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop on all these cars, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below as well. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button and the link to his channel before you go. Thanks for watching.